Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's a pleasure to rise to speak to this motion, and I want to thank the Minister for Seniors and Long-Term Care and Celtic Affairs. St. Patrick's Day is coming, so it's important to highlight that, for bringing this motion forward to the House following the report of the Committee on Procedures, Privileges and Legislative Officers recommending this. It's an important thing that we're going to do here today with this motion, I believe. An important and substantive step forward in amending our standing rules to include a listing of the roles and responsibilities and a code of conduct for MLAs. It's a very, very important step forward. And, Mr. Speaker, of course, I brought the original motion forward for us to debate, to have the Standing Committee consider the adoption of such a statement. It received support from around the House, and then the committee undertook its work. And there's two great things about this, Mr. Speaker. One is that essentially, as a Legislative Assembly, we picked up the torch from the Legislature of 2003, back then when the LAC Committee, Legislative Assembly Committee, Legislative Administration Committee, had recommended the adoption of such a statement on the roles and responsibilities of MLAs and a code of conduct. In fact, it was April 3rd, 2003, and so we picked up the torch that they threw, and we caught it, and we're acting on it as a legislature in this session, Mr. Speaker, which is fantastic. And the other great thing about this, Mr. Speaker, is it actually mirrors, in many ways, it mirrors the statement of roles and responsibilities for MLAs and the code of conduct that exists in the grandmother Parliament in Westminster, which we should all be proud of, that we are incorporating as an annex to our standing rules something similar to what has existed for some time in the original Parliament in the Commonwealth, the Westminster Parliament, and certainly, Mr. Speaker, that has held the MPs in Westminster in good stead. Democracy is alive and well in Westminster as one gets a chance to watch some of what goes on there, and this is great to have in this Legislative Assembly. It's certainly my hope that will provide the kind of guidance not only to current MLAs but future MLAs, new MLAs, that will help them get off on the right foot, that will help them do their job, and will help them do their very best in this Legislative Assembly as a representative of their constituents, as lawmakers, to ensure that the bills that end up becoming laws in this legislature are the very best possible before they receive royal proclamation, to serve the people of this province, and also to be the best overseers, watchdogs on how the public's finances are spent by government, as is part of the role of every MLA, specifically through, of course, our Public Accounts Committee and our Crown Corporations Committee, but ultimately through this Legislative Assembly. I appreciate the amendment that the Minister brought forward. I think it's a good amendment, an important amendment, and what better time than now to include that amendment in this motion. So I support the amendment as well. There's certainly always room for improvement. There's no question. There could be a little more detail, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the section that talks about performing the duties of a legislature by attending and participating in the proceedings of the legislature. Well, that could be fleshed out at a later date a little bit more in terms of what those duties of a legislator are with respect to lawmaking, with respect to amending laws when warranted, and so on, with respect to being a watchdog over the expenditure of public funds. But, Mr. Speaker, those improvements can be made later. I don't think it detracts in any way from what we're doing today. That level of detail is not there, but certainly it would be easy to add in the future because of the way this is nicely framed up. So thank you to the committee for its work on this, and I look forward, Mr. Speaker, to the vote. I think this is should be a proud day for all legislatures in the Legislative Assembly of New Brunswick.